well as one of the members of the Kenya Dental Association, as we get to discuss more on dental fluorosis. That is an instance where you find your teeth are brown all of a sudden. You cannot quite understand why. You have not been consuming lots of sugar or sweets, and so you're just there confused and not able to get why your kids are growing up, and they're growing up, yet their teeth are turning out to be brown. So we are just delving deep. We have looked at the definition of the whole matter, and we just getting to the point where we need to understand what are the causes. I started by saying that the cases are rampant in the country, and we do not seem to understand what then brings this. In your day-to-day activity, you are always dealing with people, with such cases. Of course, it would trigger that desire of wanting to know what causes this. Why is it that it's so common in comparison to what was there back or years back?
Excellent. So that's a very good question.
Right.
And like we started by saying, fluoride is a naturally occurring mineral in the ground. And as you know, most of the water comes from the ground. So it goes without saying that those areas that have, where we have high amounts of fluoride in the ground, then you find that the water, since it seeps through the rocks, it will also take up the high fluoride from underground. And that's why you see most people saying that, and rightly so, that dental fluorosis is caused by taking borehole water, because when you're doing a borehole, you go underground, right? And that's where you get the water. So
there's a connection between salty water. So this is now salty water and fluoride. Okay.
Yes, and sometimes even it might not even be salty, because fluoride does not have a taste.
Okay.
The salty, what people call salty, is just because of other contaminations.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily fluoride. You might have very crispy water, but it has high fluoride content, and you don't know. So now, there is, like you rightly said, there is an upsurge of cases, and in fact, it is becoming a health concern in our country. There is still research which is ongoing, and we have colleagues who are doing those research, but we definitely can be able to hypothesize on the causes of this. You see, there is a lot of development that is happening in the country, especially in the big cities, especially like in Nairobi, where you find people are building more in the outskirts of Nairobi, and they are building their own houses. But unfortunately, the personal development is not at the same rate as the development of services. That includes provision of water by the government. So now what happens? For example, you build in Kamulu or Roiro or wherever, because there is an unreliable provision of water, most people go underground and dig boreholes.
Okay.
All right? Yeah. So what we need to ask ourselves is, what are the areas, where we have high fluoride content? Unfortunately, you find that in our country, there is a lot of fluoride in the ground. So you find in Nairobi, almost most of the parts, including these high-end areas, Kilimani, Riverside, Ngong, Ruai, those sides of Machakos, Kajiado. Actually, Kajiado, it's also very high. Narok, Kiambu, especially a place called Dendegwa and those other areas. So those are just some of the areas, Roiro, that I'm mentioning in Nairobi. Of course, out of Nairobi, we know areas like Nakuru and Naivasha. Those are areas that are endemic with this kind of dental fluorosis, and most actually there are even stereotypes going around of people from those areas. It's just because of that. And in those areas, it's a question I had been asked by one of the patients. Sometimes for those areas, it's not even digging a borehole. It is even when they fetch water from the rivers, because the stones and the rocks in the rivers already have high fluoride. So it goes without saying, then the water seeps in the high fluoride. So it's not necessarily them digging boreholes.
But in these posh places, or so to speak, nowadays we say, okay, well, then we can buy fresh water, and then we can use the other water to cook, to shower with, and all these other household chores. But then mostly we are always keen on buying, drinking water. Does it not help?
It's actually a misconception.
Okay.
So most people think that fluoride only affects you, or fluorosis can only affect you when you drink the water. But remember, when we started, we said ingestion. So it means it's anything that you're taking. So it means the water you use for cooking can also...
So this fluoride cannot be killed by the heat?
No, you know, it's like boiling salty water.
It still will be salty.
Actually, it becomes more concentrated.
Okay.
You know, so boiling water it takes care of probably the bacteria and viruses and all, some of them, but it does not. It does not affect the mineral composition of the water. So you end up still having. So you might be very religious in taking, you know, water which is, you know, purified and all that. But then again, you are cooking with that water, or you are, you know, you are taking produce from areas that have a very high fluoride content. Okay. So, for example, let's say arrowroots or those potatoes. If it's, you know, you water with that water that has, so it means then they soak it in. So, and then the other thing about also buying water, some of the vendors, you know, our market, water market is really unregulated. So some of those vendors, they just purify dirty water to clean water. They do not alter the mineral composition of that water. Okay. So for example, if you had dirty water with high fluoride, you know, content, now you'll be having, after purified water or clean water with high fluoride content. So you'll be taking water thinking it is clean water. Yes, it is, but the mineral composition of that water, how is it? So you may find that it has still high fluoride content.
Is
so
there a way,
essence,
in essence, you're still taking fluoride?
You're actually buying a disease.
Is there a way then that the mineral component can be reduced? Because are we just saying that now we have to dye in this and that's it?
No. Luckily, and I'm grateful this interview came after we had our conference, the annual scientific conference by the Kenya Dental Association. One of our, some of our colleagues presented on this topic because, like I said, it's a concern even for us. Yeah. And finally, we have a solution that we can trust, especially as professionals. Because you find what we mostly have in our market is what I was talking about, purifiers. So what purifiers do, they just clean dirty water to clean water, but without altering the mineral composition of that water. Okay. Right? So now there is there was a research that they did with some German company over a year, and they were able to come up with a product that you can be able to use for prevention of dental fluorosis. Okay. Because like we always say, prevention is better than cure. That's true. So with this gadget, what it does, it purifies the water, but at the same time, and most importantly for us, it defluoridates the water. Okay. So defluoridation meaning it removes the high fluoride content from that water.